Welcome to Jacksonville Urban Sketchers.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to introduce you Pete Scully. He is an urban sketcher from England, but now he lives in Davis, California. Pete is actually was the founding group of the Correspondents by Urban Sketchers, and his work has been exhibited in different galleries. Pete is also the author of the books Creative Sketching Workshop and 5-Minute Sketching People. His sketches of Davis are featured in the book of The Art of Urban Sketching by Gabi Campanario. So we are very excited to have you tonight, and thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to sort of be talking to you all. As Hannah's mentioned, I'm originally from England, from North London, but I live in Davis, California now, and I have for the past almost 18 years, I think it is. So if any of you, obviously I've developed a British accent since moving here. Originally my London accent would be impossible for you to understand, but I will slip into that from time to time. If you have any trouble understanding anything I've said, I'll be happy to repeat it more loudly if I can. So as Hannah's mentioned, I've been part of Urban Sketchers for a very long time, since it started. For me, urban sketching is just something I do day to day. I'm not an art teacher. I'm not a professional artist. I'm not an architect. I work for the university. I manage a statistics department. I don't do statistics either, but I just draw all the time. I have to keep drawing. I draw every lunchtime. I draw at the weekends. I draw whenever I can, and so I'm just obsessed with drawing. And for me, drawing is not just about sort of just the drawing. It's really about the looking, and that, I think, is what urban sketching is all about. It's about observing. It's art on location, and not just observing, but really having a relationship with your surroundings. With the city or town or countryside or wherever that you live. I always think of it as a conversation with your surroundings. And so whenever I sketch a fire hydrant, which are one of my favorite things to draw, I do feel like I'm having a conversation with it through my sketchbook, not a literal conversation. Although I do, whenever I've sketched something, I go back to it, I do feel like I have a slight bit of an ownership over it, because I've stood there observing it and I've drawn it in my book. So that's really sort of like the why as to why I sketch. But yeah, my name is Pete Scully, and I'm originally from London. I really started drawing a lot more after moving out here to California, where the weather's a lot better and the light is a lot nicer. You can get outside and draw a lot more. In gloomy London, I draw all the time now, but when I was living there, it was easier to kind of stay indoors or just go to the pub. But certainly over here, you're more inclined to want to get out drawing. But I think back in the mid-2000s, I didn't really see a lot of people out drawing, and I didn't really know a lot of people online that were drawing, until I suddenly found a few blogs where people were posting their work, and it kind of inspired me to do more. And I discovered that there were these sketch crawls that were being organized. The worldwide sketch crawl that was every 3 months, organized by Enrico Casarosa in San Francisco, that was happening in different cities around the world. There was one in Davis, and I joined it, and I was very, very shy, and I didn't really want to speak to people. I was just like, I'm just going to draw in my book. I'm not even going to meet up at the end when they get together and look at each other's books. I was too shy for that. I mean, it's a different world now. But after Urban Sketchers started, and we all started to found communities around the world, I got to meet so many different artists that inspired me. All doing different things. Some people who were professional illustrators or architects or teachers. Some people who were just doing other jobs and drawing all the time, same as myself. And we all kind of inspired each other a little bit as well. And we held the first urban sketching symposium in Portland in 2010, and I just remember the plane ride back. I had so many ideas bouncing through my head, and one of them was that I've really got to get out there more. I've got to not be shy. I've got to try and engage the other artists in my community here. So I started a sketch course series called Let's Draw Davis, and it was really fun. I think around that time, a lot of the urban sketching chapters were starting to begin. I think Portland was one of the first. So I've you know I've been inspired to draw more and more ever since moving out here. But you know, I've been drawing all my life. I've always loved drawing. I've never not had like a pen in my hand. Now I hold my pen in quite an unusual way. I kind of hold it a bit like this or a bit like this. And you know, ever since I was very small at school, I was always drawing, usually, you know, Transformers or Tottenham Hotspur players or whatever I could find. But I really like observational drawing. I really like being able to see and try and put that onto the page. Now, as I've got older, you know, my eyesight's not so great. So, you know, I've discovered that we all see things in different ways. So if I'm sitting with a group of people and we're all looking at the same thing, now we might have different styles of sketching. We might be using different materials, but also we're going to have a different perspective. Different things are going to jump out to us. If we're looking at a city street, I might be kind of turned off by all that neon over there, but that might be the thing that focuses some people in. So everybody's got a different perspective, a different way of looking at things. And that's one of the things that excites me most about urban sketching, I think. You know, I can sit with, you know, one person on one side and one person on the other, completely different ways of approaching things. And I can kind of learn a little bit of each person. The next sketch I do, I'm going to kind of start from the middle, like Lapin does, or maybe I'll do the outline first, like Gerard Michel does. And that's always really exciting. But you know, as I've mentioned, I do sketch as much as I can, usually every day if I can, and usually on my lunch times. I've lived in Davis for quite a long time now, and Davis is a fairly small town. And I remember saying years ago, yeah, I've drawn everything. There's nothing left here to draw. Well, they keep building new buildings, and as soon as a building starts going up, I'm there with my sketchbook, like, you know, straight away. I'm like the Watcher from Marvel. I just suddenly appear, you know, sort of with my book. But also, you know, you can draw the same thing over and over again. You know, I lived in Aix-en-Provence for a year, and that's where Cézanne would draw Mont Saint-Victoire over and over again. And so now I draw like the UC Davis bike barn over and over again. And each time it's a little different. But also that building develops over the years. There's like things have changed, and you know, the sign might change, and the wood might rot a little bit. They might clean it up. You know, there are things that I've observed over the years that, you know, I may have lived in one place, small place for a long time, but it's been really interesting to record all the different changes in that town. And for me, you know, that's what it's all about. It's about sketching. You know, I'm not sketching a place. I'm not drawing for the sake of it. I'm trying to capture a moment in time, and that's really what you're doing when you're out urban sketching. You're not just trying to draw a building for the sake of drawing a building. You know, you're trying to draw that moment. It might have been too hot to sketch. You might have sweat dripping onto your page. Your paint, it might be too dry. Probably not in Florida, but definitely in California. My paint has dried before I've been able to put it onto the paper. You know, or it might be so hot that the paint never dries and you can't put on the next. You know, all of those things should go into the sketch. That's all the reality of the moment that you're in. It might be too loud. You might have traffic. You might. I know someone who was very angry when they were sketching in Portugal once because you got those street musicians playing really annoying music constantly, and he said it. You know, he sees that in the lines of his, you know, and I certainly get that as well. So really, you know, you're definitely not just drawing for the sake of drawing. You're capturing a moment, and I think that's the most important thing. And what do we draw? I mean, I draw a variety. I like drawing street scenes. I like drawing cars. I like drawing, and I didn't always like drawing cars. I used to hate drawing cars because I can't draw circles. That's why I don't like drawing bikes. You know, I like drawing bars and you know, places where there's life and there's different things going on. You know, I like drawing fire hydrants mostly. We don't have fire hydrants in England, so to me they're still quite a novel thing. You know, I grew up reading Richard Scarry books, and I'd always be like fascinated by those little colourful fire hydrants they'd have on the ground. We don't have them in England. You know, we just wait till it rains, and that puts the fire out. You know. But I moved to California, and we've got these colourful different fire hydrants everywhere. I find them fascinating. And so that's always been kind of one of the main things I like to draw. And so we're going to do a little demo in a little while. I'm going to show you some of my materials. And we are going to draw a fire hydrant, maybe two. And you can draw it in your own style. What I'll be doing is I'll be showing you basically how I draw. Now, I do have some examples of a few of my drawings. I don't know if is it possible, Hannah, to share the screen?
I can make you. I can make you the.
If you make me the co-host temporarily.
Yes, let me make you. Just a second. I will make you host, and then you can make me host back because it doesn't allow me to do a co-host. But now you are the host. Now you are the host. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to just show you. I'm just going to show you a few examples of some of my drawings, so you can see what kind of thing I do. I generally work in ink and watercolor. I sometimes use pencil as well, but usually I'm all about the drawing. And for me, the watercolor is also, I like coloring in. I'm not a watercolor painter. I'm really not a painter. But anyway, I'll show you a few of my drawings. And then, so this is the UC Davis bike barn, which I've drawn many times. This is the Mont Saint Michel, not Mont Saint Victoire. I always get that wrong. Of Davis for me. And there's bikes in the foreground. I hate drawing circles, so I never complete those wheels. That's fine, you know. But this is a typical drawing that I would do. Now, I like to draw my surroundings. I like to draw the place I live, which is Davis, California. And obviously, if I go out at lunchtime, I'm going to draw the buildings that are close by. You can't see this very big, but this is the water tower at UC Davis. And then, of course, I like to draw all the buildings downtown. You know, we have like, you know, colorful, cute little shops and things like that. And, you know, this is a very typical sort of scene in a small town, anywhere in America, I think. And this is our historic movie theater, which was the first building in Davis to have air conditioning. I like to learn a little bit about the history of the buildings, but I also like it when locals just come up and tell me stuff. I'll be drawing an old restaurant and someone will say, hey, you know what, in the 60s, that was my friend's house and we used to spend all night playing cards there. I love these little stories that you learn when you're out and about sketching. I like to draw street scenes. This is it's in Soho in central London, and I remember standing there for about 2.5 hours drawing this. It was a lot of fun. And this is a street scene from Burnt Oak in North London, where I'm from. And as you can see, I was really focused more on the chimneys rather than the slope of the shops going up the hill. And then this is Davis, California in the autumn, in the fall. I like to draw like the suburbs. I like to draw picket fences and fall leaves, just to show people back home. Look, this is what it looks like in American suburbia. It's great. It's fantastic. And also I like to travel. Now, I travel a lot. I like to go to a lot of places and try and draw different things. This was at the beach at Waikiki in Hawaii. And then you've got Strasbourg. I like to draw cities. I like to focus on perspective. And I like to draw very complicated cathedrals. You know, sometimes it's nice. If you've got all the time in the world, you can really spend your time sort of just standing there observing. And I do like to stand when I sketch. I much prefer to stand than sitting. And you can actually tell that in this sketch. If you're interested in the way perspective works, you can usually tell if the artist was sitting or standing when they were sketching. And I was standing, and it was slightly elevated actually on this one too. And this is an early morning in Venice. So I really love to, when I travel, I'll often get up early in the morning if I'm with my family, because, you know, family travel is not always sketching time. But if you get up early enough, you can spend a couple of hours sketching and you bring breakfast home while they're waking up. And that's what I tend to do when we travel. And this is in Edinburgh. So I had a bit of an afternoon where our own thing. I climbed a hill and I love details. And so I just decided I'm going to spend a couple of hours at the top of this hill in Edinburgh drawing as many buildings as I could see while I can still see them. I love to draw bars, especially bar interiors, because you can really focus on the difference between light and dark. And you can also work on perspective. And if you're interested in drawing people, even though I've got a book about drawing people, I'm very nervous about drawing people. You can draw the backs of people and you don't have to worry about drawing their faces, which is great. Or if that barman has got his arm in the way of his face, which is even better. Little tip there. Or you can go to a pub with hardly anyone in it at all. And this is in North London, in Dublin, in the Dublin Castle. I like to draw the exteriors of old pubs. This is one of the oldest pubs in San Francisco. And of course, it was a lovely day. So I went inside and I drew the interior and I listened to the conversations of people inside while I was drawing. And it was a nice day. I like to draw vehicles. I didn't used to. I used to leave the cars out. In fact, what I used to do, I would draw streets and I would have like these big car-shaped gaps where I just wouldn't draw anything. I thought, well, that'd be better. You can guess what car it is. All cars look the same now anyway. But then I decided, you know what, I like drawing cars now because I've got some friends, the urban sketching friends who draw these cars. And well, I can do that too. So, it's been a lot of fun to kind of like see the street. This is a DeLorean I saw in Davis, and sit there for a while, long enough until the owner comes out and is like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Well, just drawing your car. But I also like to draw trains as well. So if there's an old train parked in Davis, any kind of big vehicle with a lot of machinery on it, I'm going to whip my sketch out for that. I also really like to draw construction. Now, as I've mentioned, a sketch is not just a drawing. It's a moment in time. So when you see any new construction in town, go down there with your sketchbook and draw some of it. You'll come back the next day, it'll look different. And the next day after that, when the building's finished, it'll kind of look the same for quite a long time. But you'll have a record of what it looked like in all those different periods. So I tend to go down and I'll draw construction sites as much as I can. And sometimes, like this is a brand new gallery, 2016. It was new at the time. That was being built in Davis. And they had this really complicated roof structure, which is kind of impossible to draw now. It was hard enough then, but it's even harder now. But it was really fun to capture that moment as they were building that roof, because it was all done in a very short period of time. And then, of course, as buildings were being knocked down to make way for other buildings, straight down there with my sketchbook. I drew this a few times before it was knocked down, and I was there every day during that construction with my sketchbook. And then I drew it as the new building was being built afterwards, and it was quite a nice project. And this is another project where I was invited inside the building, and for this one, I got to wear a hard hat, and I was so pleased. I was like, can I please wear the hard hat? Can you take a picture of me sketching with the hard hat? Because I want, I want the urban sketching street cred, And other projects, I like to draw all of my son's shoes. So this is the first shoe that my son, who's now 15, ever wore. And I decided that I would draw all of his shoes for as long as I can. I'm still doing it. We went through all the different shoe sizes, and some of them are very cute. They're all in 2 different books. And as his foot grew and grew, and now, he's wearing these. And in fact, these are shoes that I originally bought for myself, which he's using. So we've kind of come, well, he's going to have to start drawing my shoes at some point. And then, of course, it's important to draw at home. That's the place you spend most of your time, apart from maybe work. And so, draw your living room, because that changes too. You'll draw your living room and think, this is boring. I'm here all the time. I have to look at this all the time. And then a few years later, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember living there, or I remember when it looked like that. Or there's a 12-year-old birthday card on the wall there with my son's. This was March 2020, and well, we ended up spending quite a lot of time at home after that. So I was drawing the house, thinking, right, God, I can't get outside, I can't go and draw. So I drew everything. I drew the entire house as much as I could, and then, of course, last Christmas during the World Cup final, I was drawing there. So and draw people. I like to draw people now. I try not to spend very long in it because I'm not, I get nervous. I like to draw other sketches. But sometimes it is nice when there's someone that and they don't mind, and you can really spend time sitting there drawing them. And it's a nice way of talking and interacting with people. Also, I like drawing toys. I like drawing Lego. So I think that's everything. So let me just stop sharing there. So I hope you enjoyed that little walk through my sketch. I'm going to let's see. I think I can make you the host again, Hannah.
Yes.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah.
So before I start showing you some of my sketching materials and doing a demo about drawing a fire hydrant, does anyone have any questions at this point?
Which pen do you like using the most?
I'll be showing you those in a moment. So I'll show you my favorite pen. Yeah, and it's the one I discovered by accident, and yeah, it's called it's the Uniball Signo DX UM151, and it's a brown black one. But yeah, I'll do a demo of how that looks in a minute. This is the one I really love using.
Well, I do have a question.
So,
like, as far as like your choice paints, like, since you say you don't really like paint a lot, like what
I paint a lot, I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, what colors do you like specifically like to use, or we'll see that when you're looking at?
Yeah, you'll see that. I mean, I know some fantastic watercolor sketchers who will use like 3 colors. And
yeah,
I will bring as many colors as I can pack into this small and it's not enough. And I'll mix them any way possible. Yeah. No, I mean, I use watercolor all the time. It's definitely my preferred method of coloring in, but I've not often just done watercolor. It's really about the line drawing for me. The watercolor is just there to back it up, but I will overcolor a piece. If someone says, oh, don't color that in, that's basically a cue for me to like, I'm going to color that in now.
May I ask you, when you're standing there for 2.5 hours sketching, do you use any kind of a board or an easel, or are you just holding your sketchbook?
So this is my sketchbook, and I actually hold it in a, no, I don't only hold my pen in a funny way. I kind of hold my sketchbook in a funny way. I kind of hold it really close to me like this. Someone said I look like I'm playing a violin, and I kind of agree with that. I didn't notice how I looked when I sketched until I started going to symposiums, and I'd see photos of myself afterwards, and it's like, oh God, I'm contorted all over the place like this. But yeah, I'm usually sort of standing like this, drawing. So yeah, so I used to have a sketching store. I still do, but I don't really use it. I actually prefer to stand when I draw. I find that when I'm sitting, a car will park in front of me and I won't be able to look over. Or my back kind of goes a bit stiff. When I'm standing, I'm kind of getting my steps in as well. It's great. I look at my watch afterwards, and my move goal has been met. So yeah, I really prefer to stand when I sketch. Awesome. Okay, so yeah. One other thing before I show you some of my works, I'm going to have to change the camera. I mean, I'm really inspired by a lot of the sketchers that I follow online and have been following for years. I wanted to sort of come up with a list of people to recommend to you, but even though I wrote some down, I didn't make any links. So I'll probably just make references to them while I'm sketching. But certainly, I'm generally inspired by seeing other people's work, and so my favorite part of any sketch crawl is looking at other sketchbooks at the end. For my sketch, I know that for a lot of sketch crawls, most of them, they do this thing where you'll choose one page of your sketchbook and you'll put it on the floor, and then people will look down at it like they're at a funeral or something, like from 6 feet above, and you don't know whose is whose. I like to meet people and see their sketchbooks and see who they are. And I like to look through them. I like them to show me if they want. And so I really like the part of the sketch crawl where you see other people's work and you can learn from it. So I'm going to show you some of my pens and my materials now, and then we'll do a little demo of drawing a fire hydrant. And if you'd like to draw along, in your own style or a similar style to what I'm going to be using, then hopefully we can have a look at those at the end. I think we've still got about 45 minutes or so, but drawing a fire hydrant doesn't take very long. If we have enough time, we'll do two. So let me see if I can just get some paper here. And this camera doesn't zoom in very well, so it may be it may not be the best look. I'll okay. How's that? You can just about see that, I think.
It looks good.
So I mentioned my favorite pen. Now, the pen I like to use, let's put it that way around, is called the Uniball Signo DX, or as it says on the pen, UM151. Now, this is a range of pens that I buy from Jet Pens. It's Japanese. They're very cheap. It's like less than $3. And I kind of discovered this on my desk by accident. Well, I discovered the black one on my desk at work by accident. I picked it up to sign something, and I was like, wow, this is really smooth. I was looking for a pen that was really smooth on all types of paper, and didn't fail. It is a ballpoint, or sort of a gel ballpoint, but it's a really nice one. But I like the brown black one. It was Shiho Nakaza, a Los Angeles urban sketcher, who at the Portland Symposium showed me this particular color of it, and that's what she used. And I just loved it because the black was a bit harsh. I like a black pen, but the brown black, it's a bit softer on the eyes, and especially goes nicely with watercolor. And in fact, they have a whole range of different colors. If you go onto Jet Pens, you can see all the different colors they have. Now, I've got a lot more than this. The thing is that the black one, I'll show you the black one, and then I'll show you the brown black one, and you'll see what I mean. So here's the brown black one. Okay, now this is going to be very, very small, but I will zoom in. Okay, I'm just doing a little bit of hatching there. And then you've got the black one next to it. I will sort of bring this up to the camera. Okay, so you can see I've just done a couple of very small things there. Now I'm going to get my little water brush. I like to use a water brush. I also like to use, a jar of water and some paints, but the water brush is quite nice. This one's seen a lot of seen a lot of work over the years. And I'm going to just do a little bit of watercolor on these so you can see the difference between the two. So let's choose like a yellow, because you can see what runs and what doesn't. So the yellow on the brown black, there's no running at all. Okay, but on the black, it smudges. It smudges a lot. So the black pen is, even after it dries, it's not so good for adding watercolor, but the brown black is almost instantaneously fine with watercolor. And that's one of the reasons I really love using this pen. Now, I've got lots of other black pens that are perfectly fine, but I would say that this brown black one is definitely my favorite. It comes in a few different sizes. I like the 0.38, but I will use the 0.5, which I also have. I use the 0.5, which will give you a slightly thicker line. But yeah, so those are, I think, my favorite pens. The type of water brush I use is just a Faber-Castell one. I went a few of these water brushes at first when people told me, oh, you should be using a water brush, it's so much easier. Well, there was a lot of weird squeezing on these water brushes, and I was like, I don't like these at all. It's either too much water or not enough. And I found this one, and it's the only one I like using now, the Faber-Castell one. But as with all art materials, everything is it's the personal taste of whoever's using them. I tend to try and use a lot of different papers. My favorite is the watercolor Moleskine. That's the one I think I've definitely used the most. This is one of my watercolor Moleskines. I really like the sort of drawings that I can get on these are really nice, but it also takes the watercolor really, really well. There's one that I started in the museum and didn't finish. That's that one of Edinburgh. Yeah, so it's a really, really nice one with the watercolors. But at the moment, one of the ones I'm using is the Stillman and Byrne Alpha. This is very good as well. The paper's a bit thinner. It does take watercolor well, but just not quite as well as the watercolor Moleskine. The paper will buckle a little bit. And if you live in a dry environment like Davis, sometimes the paint dries a little bit too quickly on this. Or if you live in a much more humid environment, it might not dry at all, and the paper will buckle more. But nonetheless, it's very, very nice paper to draw on, for the ink work. And so I'll occasionally like using these ones. And because the paper's a little bit thinner, I tend to only draw on one side, mostly because when I scan it with my scanner, you can see the lines on the other side. But on the whole, it's not too bad. This drawing, actually, by the way, of this tree is going to be cut down tomorrow. It's a tree that's been on the campus since the 1960s, and it produces some beautiful shade right next to a lake. It's a Japanese Zelkova, and I just learned yesterday that it's actually got an irreparable split down the middle caused by the weight of the branches. And so they've made the sad decision to chop it down, and that's going to be tomorrow. So I went down there with my sketchbook today to draw it for one last time. Draw these things before they go. That's one way to remember. Other pens that I like to use, I really like using the Pigma Micron. So if I'm going to be drawing in black, the Pigma Micron pen, which you're probably all aware of, is a really nice. In fact, I think this is the nicest kind of black pen. There are some others which work pretty well, but I really like the Pigma Micron for the kind of small, easy line that it produces. Even on watercolor paper, you're going to find that this will produce a really nice line. Although, if you are using watercolor paper a lot, those fine nibs, they wear down quickly, and they're not cheap once you start going through a lot of them. And what I tend to find is that the nib might start wearing down, but there's a lot of ink in there, and I'm thinking, well, I'll use that for coloring in later, on when I'm doing big projects where I have large black sections. So I've got a cupboard full of these things going back about 15 years, because I'll never throw them away because there's a little bit of ink left in them. So, but that's the Pigma Micron, and these come in a whole bunch of colors. I love the Pigma Micron black because it is very, very dark, and it does not run with watercolor at all. Let's have a look at that. It's very, very nice. It's a bit darker than, like, for example, the Statler black. I'm afraid that these drawings are very small that I'm demoing here. We'll get onto the drawing the fire hydrant in a minute. I also occasionally will use a fountain pen. I get really nervous when it comes to putting more ink in it because, as I mentioned earlier, I don't really like mess. But nonetheless, using a fountain pen like this is the Lamy Safari. A lot of people like to use these. You'll see these. It's really, really popular with urban sketchers, and it doesn't tend to leak as much as some of the other fountain pens. And using the carbon black ink, this one here. It's the carbon ink. It's the platinum black one. This doesn't run with water. I mean, you might have to let it dry for a minute or two, but generally I've found that this is very, very nice to draw with. But because I'm so used to drawing with that brown black, I tend to I tend to shy away from going out and drawing a lot with black pens now, because it's a little bit harder on the eye. But if I want to draw something really, really like a piece of graphic work, this fountain pen works beautifully, and has a really smooth line. And of course, if you turn the nib upside down, you can get a nice thin line as well. I've just ordered a couple more in different sizes because I really want to sort of try it out and about urban sketching again. But I'll carry a big pencil case full of art materials, and then all I'll really use is this, the one that I always use. That's the way it goes. What you do when you carry around a load of art materials, you're actually just carrying around a load of maybe I'll use this ideas, but on the whole, use what you're most comfortable with. I do like using a pencil. I'll often use a pencil for to block out a scene, especially if I'm working with a lot of perspective. I'm really interested in working with perspective. I think it's an important skill to practice. One of the reasons I like to draw in a bar is because you can really practice your perspective lines. Always remember that the line of horizon is eye level. Once you've got that, everything else can fall into place. If you're out in the streets, here's a good perspective tip. If you're out sketching in the streets, don't trust the ground. The ground's often up and down. Don't trust the ground. Trust the eye level and trust the windows. If you're out and about drawing, the windows will generally be all pointing towards the horizon. Okay, if you follow the windows, you can get good. Let's see if I've got an example of it in here. Probably not, but probably not actually. No, I look at this as a whole load of. But anyway, yeah. So that's what I like to think about when it comes to perspective. Right, and I also like to carry a white gel pen. You'll see a lot of artists use this. They use the white gel pen to maybe add some sort of light areas to the page. It's a little bit washed out, this. But also you'll see a lot of people use the white gel pen to put a white outline around the things that are in the foreground of their drawings, as I've done with this drawing and the signage that was in front of it. And that kind of helps, like, just bring it out a little bit more. It's a different way from just putting a thicker line around it. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the great thing about sketching. Okay, so I think I'd like to draw a fire hydrant now with you, if you don't mind. And I'm going to be using my my brown black pen. I'll try and draw as large as I can. Typically, I don't draw very big. I like to draw small. If I draw larger, I'll just put the same level of detail over a larger area. That's no fun. Now, hopefully this isn't too blurry, but if you want to draw along with me, we're going to draw the yellow fire hydrant that I think may have been shared with you. That one was on the streets of Venice Beach, I think it was. Let's see if I can find that. So that's that's that funny looking one there with a little face on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick that up there. Now, when I use a pencil, I do have a bunch of pencils which I carry around, and if I'm going to properly draw in pencil, I usually draw like a number 2, like an HB pencil. But if I use a pencil when I'm going to do an ink sketch, I'll often just use it to block things out. Perspective lines, shapes. And if I'm drawing a fire hydrant, let's see. You may not be able to see it because I like to draw with a 4H, which has very, very like hard to see lines. So this is a great idea to do a demo with a pencil you can't see on a camera that's a little blurry. So apologies for that. Now, if you do have any questions, feel free to just interrupt. I'm totally fine with that. But when I'm out and about and I draw, I tend to sort of like draw a little circle at the top. Not when you see that, and that'll be the top of the fire hydrant. And then I kind of like think about, well, how big is this going to be? Probably about there for the middle, about there for the bottom, and then sort of there for the bottom there. And then you'll see that there's a bit of a circle. I hate drawing circles, as I've mentioned. Hate drawing circles. Hate drawing people. It's not a lot I do like drawing. But anyway, so I sort of draw the base there, just to kind of give myself an idea, and then I'll just draw a couple of lines down there, like that, to show basically where I'm going to go. If anyone looked at very closely at most of my drawings, they'll see a whole bunch of lines going all over the place. I'll draw these outlines, and then I largely won't follow them. But I'm going to try to do this. So, as you see, there's kind of like two ears on this fire hydrant. One big ear on one side and one slightly smaller ear on the other. So I just sort of look at it like this. There we go. Little bit of circle, a bit of a cylinder. But imagine that there's a line going through to the other side. So you can try and get like this bit in line with the other side. Feel free to use your pencil. Feel free to use your finger or anything. I don't tend to use rulers when I draw, when I'm out and about. I like a slightly wavy line. But also, there aren't that many really straight lines when you're sketching. So when I taught a workshop on perspective once, and I told people there are no straight lines except for the horizon. And even that goes around you in a circle. Everything curves at some point, but I try not to get too hung up on lines being too straight. Okay, so anyway, so that's going to go there. So then I think, well, whereabouts is that nose? It's a little bit above halfway down. I'm just going to put like a circle there. You can't really see it because I'm using a very thin pencil here. And then you've kind of got a little bit there, and so you're going to be looking at, there's a line going that way. Okay, so that's the basic outline, but that's not all of it, because obviously when you're out and about sketching, you want to put a bit of the surroundings in as well. And in this case, if you were to look at this photo, you could tell that my eye line is above it, because these perspective lines on the street behind it, and I know I said don't trust the street, but you can trust this one. I was there, it's flat. They are still pointing upwards, even above it. So I'm gonna draw the curb as it's going down like that. Now, it's about where the nose is, and then down here it's about halfway down. So if I put that line there, you can kind of see that it's going there, and then it's going to be pointing up to a point in the distance. Now, I'm going to do another one here. Now, the distance is going to be very far off my page. So where's the vanishing point of these two lines? Well, Florian Afflerbach, fantastic sketcher, who sadly passed away in 2016. I remember him showing me a really, really neat trick. But when he's sketching with a piece of paper out and about, sometimes he'll get like his cup of coffee over here somewhere, and that'll be whereabouts these two lines meet. Now, if you're out and about sketching in a sketchbook, it's not always easy to do that, but I've never forgotten that you can still kind of use something off the page. But I'm going to say, for a sketch like this, you're not really worrying too much about that. These are just a couple of lines on the page. Now, this is at this point that I will to look at the it's a bit blurry, isn't it? So there we go. I'm going to start doing the the ink. I wonder why this is so blurry. There we go. Yeah. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so there we go. So I'm gonna start doing some ink. I generally start at the top. Apologies if you can't quite see my hand because of the way I hold my pen. I'm using the slightly thicker of these pens because it's a bit of a larger sketch than I would normally do. And I will generally start with the outline first. And oftentimes when drawing a fire hydrant, I won't even do this pencil outline. This is just kind of how I will start blocking out a drawing. Fire hydrants are fairly easy. When you've drawn as many of them as I have, you kind of know where you're going to start. You know, you're not really want to worry too much about it. And you know what? If it doesn't look quite right, hardly anyone's going to be comparing it with the real thing, unless they go on Google Street View, which some people do. But I do. In fact, to remember where exactly this was, because I couldn't remember, I did go on Google Street View to try and figure out where I was on that day in May in 2015. And I was walking through Venice Beach. So I'll usually just draw outline with very few details first. I do really like a rusty fire hydrant though. That's one of my favorite things. And the other one, we probably won't have time to draw it today, but do try and draw it. I found in New York, and it was had some really cool graffiti on it. It was also absolutely freezing cold, so I think I drew a different fire hydrant in the cold. But I was like, yeah, I'm not going to draw too much out here. I'm not too worried about my paints freezing, more my blood. It was one of the coldest winters in New York's history, I think. So I'm going to draw a bit of a nose as it sticks out there, and you've got this lovely shape of a five-sided shape there. Pentagon, that's what it's called. I can never remember the names of shapes. One of the great things about drawing street furniture and actually being interested in it is that you never really run out of things to draw. Like, if you're not sure what to draw, you can always draw a fire hydrant because there's usually one around. And because fire hydrants over here tend to be different depending on where you are, you know, it can really, you're really saying something about a place that you're in. And most people do ignore the fire hydrants. But you can get some funny looks. I definitely get funny looks when I'm drawing fire hydrants.
I've never heard the phrase street furniture used.
Yeah, actually, there was a really good workshop that Pedro Loureiro, Portuguese sketcher, did in the Porto Symposium in 2018 called Street Furniture. And I was like, well, this one's right up my alley. And for that one, I actually drew one of those big public toilet buildings. But it was all about, you know, lampposts and benches and the sort of things that people walk past. And then we had to kind of observe the world interacting with those. Well, obviously, I didn't watch people go to the toilet or anything. not insane, but you know, we did watch like the people interacting with the street furniture, and try and imagine sort of like the stories that were going on. And actually, I remember that the toilets that I drew, I think they might have been out of order, but hardly anyone that tried to get in there knew that. They kept banging on the door and saying, "Well, how long are you going to be?" Obviously in Portuguese. And I thought it was hilarious because I was like, I know for a fact there's no one in there. So that became the little story that I put together as part of my sketch. Has anyone here been to one of the International Urban Sketching Symposia?
I've been.
Which one did you go to?
I went to the one in Amsterdam in 2019 before
Oh, that
COVID.
one was so hot.
Yeah, it was. They said it had record high heat that they normally don't
Yeah.
get. And it literally spiked. It was, and then they don't have AC, so that was like a thing too. There's only AC like in the places like, you know, the gym, the grocery store, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was one of the lucky ones. My hotels had AC and it kept working.
Yeah, see, I stayed in the
Really
Airbnb.
Because
Yeah, I stayed in
almost everyone I know, their AC went down and they were like trying to cool off in the corridors.
Yeah,
So I
I
got very
stayed in the
lucky.
Airbnb, so I wanted to kind of immerse myself in the culture and
Mhm.
learn about it. And the place that I stayed at was awesome. I had the balcony space and everything. I was on the rooftop, so it worked well. But it was just a little hot up until
Yeah,
like 6 o'clock, like 5 or 6 o'clock. Yeah.
it was incredibly hot there.
I was in the Chicago symposium,
Oh,
2017.
I missed that one. I was really sad to miss it because I
I
know
w-
some of the Chicago sketches and it looked like it was a lot of fun.
Yes, I was living there back then. That's where I first started with urban sketching. So I was one of the volunteers. Yes.
Wow. So you probably met like people like Don Colley and Matthew Brehm.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I met them at the first symposium in Portland, and you know, I think I went bar sketching with Don Colley. What an amazing artist he is. But I remember Matthew Brehm. I mean, I've seen him at so many symposia now. He's great, and he has a fantastic book about perspective.
Yes.
But I remember that at that first symposium in Portland, he gave a talk, and one of the things he said was, you know, that this is the Woodstock of urban sketching, and it really felt like that, you know, sort of like a thing where a lot of people went to and went off and started like just creating groups and doing all sorts of things. It was fantastic. So yeah, I really wish I'd gone to the Chicago symposium.
It was really good.
But I just started a new job at work, and I was like, I can't really leave. So you'll see on this hydrant here that there's obviously some words on the side there. I think DS Jones and a few things. I like to try and add a little bit of that in, but sometimes just a few scribbles is more than enough if you can't really read it. And these areas where it kind of slants in, I tend not to do very thick lines for those, just a few like dotted lines. So I forget who it was that said they went to the Amsterdam symposium. Which workshops did you go to?
I went to it's Gorgonson. Like he's a really good urban sketcher. I tried to do Paul Wayne, but he was like full.
Oh,
And his name is Joel Gorgonson. Like Gord's like it's I can't pronounce his name right, but he was really sweet and really good artist. He does like a lot of very like detailed, intricate paintings of watercolor, but they're so like detailed. It makes me think of like Howl's Moving Castle or something. Like
yeah, I know him. Jörg Asselborn, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually sat next to him at pizza in Amsterdam, and he did that windmill workshop, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, his work's
and
amazing.
it was really good. I know he's so good, and he had a good personality. So it made it so easy for me to like just hang out with him and like ask him like 1,000 questions. He was really, really good.
Yeah, he was so nice.
Yeah, he was. I really enjoyed him. And so like now like we follow each other on social media, which he has like a ton of followers, but his work is like so good, so creative. And I really, every time I see his stuff, it makes me think about Howl's Moving Castle. And I love
that's what I thought of as well, actually.
Yeah, it's like
so
they're
detailed.
very detailed. Yeah, and it's so interesting seeing his watercolors, like, and like how they've developed from like how when I first met him until now, they're taking off. There's like something else happening with it. So I love his stuff.
Yeah, he's amazing. Yeah, no, I got to chat with him over pizza and look at his sketchbooks, and yeah, he's fantastic. So I've been really loving his work since then. So. One of the workshops I took there was with Shari Blaukopf on color, and we were sketching down at the harbour, and I've loved her work for years. She's based in Canada, and so it was fantastic taking a workshop with her. She's such a great teacher.
Yeah, the sketch crawls were really cool too, because I got a chance to meet so many different people, and it's so interesting. I ended up hanging out with a lot of people from Seoul, and it was so like different seeing like their styles, but they really liked my style, and then we just started like talking after that. So I had a good time. Like I really see like the idea of being able to connect with so many different people, and that's honestly why I went, to see like the different people, like how they're creating, and see how big this chapter really was, because I didn't know how big it was until I went to Amsterdam, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of people at Amsterdam. It was very overwhelming. But even though I've been to quite a few of them, I got to meet a lot of people in that one that I'd never met before, and it was really, really fun. The first symposium we had, I think we had like 75 people, and you kind of got to meet everyone. And as they started getting bigger, it was hard. You just stick to the people that you've met before. So I really did try to hang out with some new people as well. But I've met some of the sketchers from Korea. I love following the Korean sketchers online, because they've generally got a really a really colourful style with a lot of the sketchbooks there. So with my my sketch at the moment, I've done most of the line work, and so there's not a lot of different details on here apart from the face, and so what I generally do next is I'll start thinking about, well, how am I going to do the shading before I put the color on. So like I sometimes do a little bit of cross hatching, like down here like this, just very, very light. I really like a little bit of cross hatching, but not too much. And of course, you've got this these shadows. Now you've got the shadow right underneath it, which, as you can see, is much darker than the shadows that you'll see on the hydrant itself. So I'll do one of those things where I'm going to do a lot of lines in the shadow. I want to kind of have them pointing in the same direction, but sometimes I'll just do like a section of cross hatching. I've seen some other sketchers do that, and it looks very nice. And then you've got this the shadow of the nose just sort of going down. I'm just going to draw the outline of that. And this is something that I could do just with the paint afterwards. But because I'm doing a little bit of hatching on this, I'm going to actually sort of hatch this out as well, and then you can kind of know that it's shadow. But I will add a bit of paint on there just to add a bit more to it. Okay, I'm going to sort of thicken the line a little bit. As I say, I'm really a fan of lines being too straight when I draw. But I love super straight lines when other people draw. You should see Gerard Michel in action. He is the best. He's the master. Okay. Now, I do carry around a little eraser in a pen form. If I want to erase some of these guidelines on here, I'm going to go ahead and do that just because, although oftentimes I'll just leave them in because I don't really mind them being there. And then I'm going to move on to adding a little bit of color on there. I'm going to use my water brush. And I'll let you into a secret. So the type of napkins that you carry for urban sketching is hugely important. Cane's chicken fingers ones are really good. Not as good as Chipotle. Chipotle have the best ones. So if you go to Chipotle, if you're in Chipotle and you see someone carrying out a big stack, you know that they're an urban sketcher because they know that they're the best ones. Canes are pretty good as well. So I always make sure I leave canes with a big stack of theirs. But other napkins can tend to really dissolve a bit, and when they start dissolving, it really gets on your brush, and that's no good. Canes are pretty good. Chipotle are the best. Depending on whether you like the food or not, of course. I sometimes use Chipotle just for the toilet and the napkins. So it's funny, I draw a lot of fire hydrants, and I don't really like using yellow much, but it's actually one of my least favorite colors to paint with. But I picked this one. So I use a lot of different paints. I go with the Winsor and Newton Cotman range because they're pretty cheap, but I'll fill it in with some of the professional colors. The professional colors for Winsor and Newton tend to be a bit overpowering. So I like to use the Daniel Smith ones, which are a bit nicer. Some of those can be a bit strong, like this green down here, this lime green. I love that for doing grass out and about, but it is quite a strong one. And I use the QOR paints as well occasionally. I'll squeeze a bit of very strong pigments, but the ultramarine QOR can be lovely as a background for foliage, I've found. So I keep a little bit of that in there. I haven't got a lot of my light blue left because I've been painting a lot of skies this summer. obviously not in Scotland, but mostly in Davis. But I've still got I think this is the Winsor and Newton. It's not Gam. It's not. It's a regular yellow one. I forget the name of things. I actually forget the name of paints. I know people are really into their paints, and they know all the quinacridone roses and all that. I just say you know, warm yellow and cold yellow. This colder yellow is the lemon yellow, and that's quite a nice one too. But I like the slightly warmer yellow on a fire hydrant like this, and I'm just gonna cover most of it in yellow, except for that little bit up the top, which has the reflection of the sun on it. I'm going to leave that bit a little bit white. But the rest of it, I'm just going to color in the whole thing. Not worry about the shading. Or maybe I'll add a bit of shading in afterwards. One of the things about drawing urban furniture is you get the idea that everything is interesting if you take an interest in it. And I've always liked that kind of philosophy about sketching. It's you know, you can never be bored if you find everything interesting. Of course, I don't find everything interesting, but I definitely like fire hydrants. Okay, there's a funny kind of rusty color at the bottom there. Orangey brown, blues, there. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of purple mixed in with this smudgy blue. I like to keep bits of my palette up here fairly dirty. I think having quite dirty colors really reflects the real world when you're out and about sketching. If everything looks a bit too clean, it can look a bit fake, you know. And then I'm going to draw just a shading bit on the nose there, but kind of blends in. If you've got a nice hard piece of shadow, always make the hard edge the darkest bit. But if it kind of blends in as it does on the side here, just do your best. As I say. Whenever I'm mixing shadows, I tend to like mix a bit of ultramarine, purple lake, and a little bit of Payne's grey all together. For some reason, that gives me the sort of shadow tone I want. Just think it looks quite nice on the page, but kind of depends on where you are and what sort of shadows you're observing. And that's pretty much it for my guy. I'm not going to paint in any of the background. A little bit of black for the eyes. More shading under there. And that's my little yellow fire hydrant. So there we go. I think the colours are a little bit washed out on the screen here, but they are a bit more vibrant in real life. So that was my fire hydrant. So I don't know if anyone's been able to finish one as well, but I think perhaps if anyone does, maybe we can put the camera back so that it shows the view of everyone, and maybe whoever would like to show theirs. So we've okay. Who's going to go? Oh, we've got quite. Wow, got quite a few here.
I will highlight some people.
Mm-hmm.
Barbara.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes.
Definitely got the expression there.
I like the personality of yours. Yes.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
shadow on his nose is kind of messed up, but yeah, he's all right.
Oh, looks
Nope.
grand.
Nobody knows.
Jessica. Yes.
Very nice. Oh, and you've got the background as well. Yeah.
Nice.
Lovely perspective on that background too.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Okay,
Oh,
how
you there?
did you know all that was back there? Because I could never see the fire hydrant. I could just see his sketch. Did you make all that up or did I miss something?
It was
Oh, we have a photo reference.
Very nice. So look at these. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Very
I love it.
nice.
I didn't darken my
Thank
eyes.
you. Good. Princess. Let's go with Princess. Oh,
Oh, that's grand.
nice.
Look at that.
Nice.
Very good.
Very nice.
Very
That's quite a big
nice.
one as well. So
Lisa, let's go with Lisa.
oh, look at that. That's great.
Nice. Lisa.
Very good.
Beautiful.
You are
really
nice.
funny.
Big, too.
We're going to be seeing this fire hydrant's face now. It's really funny seeing it drawn in different ways. The more I see it, the funnier the face looks. There we go.
Nice.
Right.
Buster.
I love
that's
that background as well.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
Awesome stuff.
I like that.
very good.
Very nice.
Thank you.
The outline on that is so cool.
Joanna. Johan.
Oh, look at that. That's lovely.
Oh, that's great.
Mhm.
We're good.
Well, I'm glad we chose this hydrant now because this has got some personality to it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Janet.
Oh, that's
Oh.
great.
Yeah, that's great.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The shadows are darker. So
Jamie.
there's a couple from Jamie there.
All right. Okay.
Oh.
Very good.
You are fast.
If ever any of you are in Southern California and go to Venice Beach, this fire hydrant, I believe, is right opposite. There's this giant building which looks like a pair of binoculars. So you have to find it now.
Eva.
More still now. I think we still have some more to see. I think actually, yeah. There we go.
Awesome.
Oh,
Oh,
look at that.
awesome.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Phyllis.
Yeah, some more on there.
Phyllis.
Yeah. Let's see some little ones. Very good.
Nice.
Very
Nice.
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 Nice, Phyllis.
What's funny about this one, obviously we're all drawing from the same photo. Now, when you're out drawing with a bunch of other people, you might be drawing the same thing. You're seeing it all from different angles. Oh, that's lovely. Look at that one.
Oh, very good.
Rhonda.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Yes.
Thank
They're
you.
quite big as well. So
Mhm. Am I missing?
yeah,
Ruth. That's good.
there we go.
All right.
Oh.
Cool.
Love it.
So cute.
Thanks for
Very
sharing that. So,
Definitely cute.
yeah.
Am I missing someone?
I can see Gina's one in there.
Gina, let me highlight Gina.
Very nice. Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Aw.
Your
I
palette.
like the blue you've used for the shadow.
Yeah.
Looks very nice. Makes it really stand out.
Definitely.
Excellent.
I always get nervous drawing shadows on anything yellow. I'll draw a yellow house and then I do the shading. It's like, oh, I'm going to get the color wrong. So, that blue stands out really nicely. I might have to use that. So,
Can we take a group picture
okay.
if we can hold our sketch? Okay. One.
Well, the next thing you have to do is everyone has to pull the face that's on the.
1, 2, 3. Thank you. Very good.
My
Thank you.
watercolors didn't come in. Mine's just pencil.
That's great.
I don't have a pen yet.
Can we see it?
Let's see. Let's spotlight you.
It's Patrice. I don't know. Can you see it?
I think
I
you're
think
too
it's
close.
too blurry. Probably because you've got a blurry background. I think it blurs the image.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Well,
I can see it from the
You see-
angle. When you put it at an angle. Yeah.
I used a 2H and it's very light.
Oh
But
yeah.
I've got a
2H
pen
too,
coming.
But I've been using this 4H, which is practically impossible to see if I'm in low light. No
Yeah.
good.
I had to
you
go
see
turn
it
the
too.
lights on.
Oh, very nice.
Very
Very
nice.
nice.
Teresa. Yes.
I like that. That's great.
Yeah, I didn't add the color. I didn't have time because I was cooking at the same
Oh,
time.
that's pretty impressive though, to do cooking and urban sketching at once.
I'm going to show mine. Right. This is mine.
Very
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Very, very good.
Always.
Love
And,
the personality.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
very
nice.
nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I often like to draw on the iPad as well. I didn't really show a lot, but I've had so many Zoom meetings where at the end of the Zoom meeting, I've sent everyone. I actually drew everyone's face during the meeting. You know, when I was in-person meetings several years ago, before the pandemic started, I would draw the back of everyone's heads in those meetings. And suddenly it was like, now I can see you all. I look like I'm concentrating and nodding. I'm actually drawing you, you know. So, one of the great things about these Zoom meetings. But I'm glad to be back in in-person meetings at work now. But now everyone knows that I'm going to be drawing them. So, so yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to share. Really, I mean, I would say that you know, as I say, you know, when we're drawing in the streets, you know, people are going to come up to you and ask, you know, what's it for? I get that question a lot. What are you drawing for? And my answer is usually, you know, because I like drawing. It's not necessarily for anything. I'm not doing it for a project. I'm not sort of commissioned to do it. I just like drawing, you know. And that's usually the answer every time anyone asks you. So, but anyway, so yeah, so that's me drawing fire hydrants. I hope you enjoyed. Have you enjoyed that? I hope to meet you all in Jacksonville someday.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Yes. Hope that you get come to.
Hey,
I hear it's very timid. Oh, get out of town!
hey, Peter.
I've got
Can you
that
hear
same
me?
cup, but it's downstairs.
What's
Peter,
on the
can you hear me?
Fantastic. There we go. Yeah,
Come on, you Spurs.
absolutely.
I think we have a
Yeah.
question. We have a question.
Absolutely. Sure.
No, actually, I just have a comment. Peter, thank you so much for the beautiful sketchbook you shared and for the beautiful demo.
Yeah,
I just had, you know, the coincidence is that I was a part of Jacksonville Urban Sketchers, and I just recently moved, and I'm now in California. And I was wondering, like, hey, I need to find the group over here to join, and then you know, I got this Facebook invite to participate and really enjoyed it. But actually, the coincidence is that I'm actually on faculty at the UC Davis Medical Center. Can you imagine?
Hey.
I couldn't believe it.
Is that the one in Sacramento?
Yes, but I'm up in the Rockland facility, so I'm about 25 minutes drive from the Sacramento Center.
Well, we do have a bunch of, I mean, we have sketch calls in Davis every month. I know that there are some sketches in Sacramento, but there's a group of sketchers to our sketch calls up in the Auburn area, which is not too far from Rockland, I think.
Sure.
And they meet fairly regularly in Auburn and some of the little towns around there. I've not had a chance to go there myself, but they're a pretty good group. So check out Auburn. They're not called Auburn Sketches. I forget what the name is, but
Sure. Thank you so much for giving us.
I can get you in touch with someone that is actually up there who comes on our sketch.
Thank you so much for the wonderful demo.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope to see you in Davis. So.
Yes, thank you very much.
Look forward. Yeah.
Pete, this has been really wonderful, and I think we've all really enjoyed it. We've enjoyed all your sketches and your personality. We've really enjoyed it. So thank you so much. And if you ever come to Florida, we would love to maybe do a workshop with you. Maybe schedule something to get you over here. We would love that.
Well, thank you for making me feel at home. I do get very, very nervous when talking to people. So
It didn't show.
Wonderful. You did great.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lovely work.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Good
Good night.
night.
Good night.